In this video, we're going to introduce to you a concept that we really feel deeply about, and that is moving more with the family. This constitutes the LIA portion of your exercise or your movement groove. It's not something to kind of gloss over. It's a very important part of the movement groove.
And it's really underrated most of the time too.
Yep. So what LIA stands for is lower intense activity. So if you think of intense cardio exercises, the stuff that gets you huffy, puffy, and
feel like you're going to die and then you don't.
Yep. That's intense cardio. That's everything that is basically cardio based when you think about going to a gym and doing a class or F45 or CrossFit. Then you have your lower intense activity, which is anything that doesn't make you a sweaty pile of mess. But don't be fooled into thinking that it doesn't make you move and work. So the key with lower intense activity and making it work for you is to make it a part of just every day, something you just do, something that's fun. And the worst thing that you can do is go and try and get your cardio in on a treadmill, or try and go out with the intention of getting a certain amount of steps each day. There's nothing wrong with fitness trackers. They are really good to make you aware of how much you actually move. But if you go out with the intention of clocking up 10,000 steps, or you go out with the intention of spending half an hour on a treadmill, it's one of the most mind-numbing experiences you can ever experience. And I'm talking from experience here because I've done a lot of it. Hours and hours and hours of cardio to try and get lean for bodybuilding comps, and it's something that never really stuck. And really, if I thought about it, there was more effective uses of my time. It wasn't really that effective. I could have easily been running along Logie on her bike, and that would have got me moving and done the same job. Right?
So taking it too seriously on that end, that LIA must be scheduled in and bland and boring and a certain pace and all that kind of jazz. Whereas I've always been the one to move with things that I love. And I've talked about this on a previous video about dancing. That was my love. That was my passion. So I wanted to bring that back it brings out the inner child in me as an adult. And I've also gotten the girls involved. But then there's also things like rollerblading, riding the bike, teaching Logie to ride off her training wheels, and then you have to run beside her to make sure that she doesn't fall off, and I don't always catch her, and then she gets faster, and playing tips. So instead of sitting on the sideline when you go down to the park, using that as an excuse to sit down on the sideline, instead, you get up there and you kick the ball, or you play tips, play cricket, play volleyball, all those kind of fun things that make you move.
Swing on the monkey bars.
Swing on the monkey
even if you
bars.
can't swing on them. And when you're experiencing something like isolation, which we literally just have, so depending on when you watch this video, we may be well out of the COVID experience, but being inside really had to make us think outside the square as well with keeping active. So
when it was cold and
we used
rainy.
to do was look up kiddie yoga,
Cosmic yoga, Just Dance. Just Dance was so fun. Even bringing out the Wii, and we played tennis, boxing, and it creates that huge competition between you as well, and especially for this guy. Like, he is much better doing something like that than being on a bland and boring treadmill, or going outside and trying to really get faster and all that kind of jazz and get his steps up. And
exactly. So yes, fit mums don't chain themselves to a machine and try and get their steps in, or
sit on the sideline at the park.
They don't they don't sit on their sideline at the park. But what they do is they just move every day with their family, and they move vigorously. They get into it and they play. Like, I don't know if you've ever played tips with your kids, but when you're playing tips with the kids, you probably run faster than you do, or you'd ever thought you'd be able to.
100%, especially when they get older and they get faster.
And they show you up. So,
and making a date with your kids as well. I promised after school on Mondays that we go to the skate park, and I promise that I rollerblade with them. So if that date is missed, you get one or two very disappointed children, or how many ever kids that you have. That disappoints them, and that hurts me. So
and what we've found as well is during that time in the afternoon where it's witching hour and we've got a 2-year-old just laying there screaming on the floor, and you know the 8-year-old at the time was just like, wow, what's this, all this noise? Getting them moving and getting them outside of the room, even though it was counterproductive to getting them to bed on time, was the best thing we could have done, because it got everyone's mood lifted.
Yeah.
And the LIA not only lifts your mood, but it lifts your base metabolic rate. So if you want to get sciencey for a second, if you're not moving much every single day, you're not going to be burning much body fat or much energy throughout the day, right? If you just lift that slightly, your average over the week, it becomes a lot higher. So therefore, not only are you burning more fat, but you're creating the supply and demand cycle inside of your body to actually need more energy. And one thing is for sure with your body is if you don't put the demand on it to actually need more energy, your body will down-regulate itself, and it won't actually supply you with that energy that you, and that spring in your step. So it's like a cycle that you have to start with a spark. And the spark is loving what you do and having passion in that movement.
And then doing it anyway, even when you don't necessarily feel like it, because then 5 minutes into it, you're like, thank God I made myself do that.
Yeah. So that's LIA.